Yeah, so that's like the basic noting practice. And so when you're noting, you can either just note what comes up, so almost like just be open and see what comes up and just be free. So you could be going from like emotions to physical sensations to whatever's arising, or you can sort of choose a thing and note that. So like breath would be one where you could just note in breath, out breath, or you could note like all the tiny stages on the way. See if you can do that, like with in the back of the throat, belly expanding. Yeah, and there's different ways to do it. And with this exercise, I think it'd be good to choose a thing to note. And so maybe we can start just by doing that just for like 30 seconds. And you can choose whatever feels kind of good to you. But if you want something recommended, I'd recommend something on the breath around the nostrils, like the air going in the nostrils maybe and coming out the nostrils. And that's difficult for some people. So if that feels difficult, choose something else. But the reason I'd choose that is because when we're going to go into noting awareness, a lot of people's awareness is like largely centered around their kind of eyes and head, and so it will be good to be somewhere around here when we're noting. So yeah, if we just maybe spend literally like 30 seconds just kind of like close your eyes and feel into your breath and your nostrils, and kind of just note in your head like whatever word feels good. So it could be breath or air or cool or something that kind of sums up the sensation of the air coming in and out of your nostrils as you breathe. And you just say it every time you feel it, or whatever rate feels good. And hopefully that you get a sense of that sort of spotlight effect where it's kind of just giving you a clear place for your awareness to be. It's kind of bringing it into a bit more clarity, a bit more crispness, giving you something to focus on. And then the next step that we're going to do is basically we're going to step back and note the awareness itself. So I'll do this, I'll guide you through this as a guided thing when we do it. And but basically it's almost like, rather than having a spotlight where we're looking at a thing, so for example we're like looking at the breath on the nose, it's almost then like stepping back into the source of the light. It's like a backwards into the awareness itself. And when you do this, a few things might happen. So one is that you might just be able to sort of like, when you step back, it's almost like experience can just sort of like open up, and there's a sense of awareness resting in awareness itself. Another one is that it can sort of fold in on itself. So as the awareness becomes aware of the awareness, it's like the experience gets sort of like just folds in. It almost feels a bit like your brain's going whoop on itself. And another thing is that it can just sort of like shut the system down a bit, and take you into quite a hygienic state, or drop you into your heart. So it can be quite different things can happen, and it's just like creating space and allowing for kind of the energy to express itself, I suppose, and see what happens, and just be open-minded about where it might take you, I suppose. And yeah, the kind of purpose of doing this, the purpose of like becoming aware of the awareness and like taking that step back and being almost like becoming the awareness itself, is because it opens up a huge amount of space in experience. So rather than being that narrow spotlight that's always like moving around and very focused on things, it's like becoming the source of the light, and that just like creating space where stuff is just happening. So it's not like us looking at a thing, it's like just an open space of perception and awareness and that kind of light. So that's the sort of theory behind it. You don't need to worry about all of that too much. I'll just guide you through, and yeah, whatever happens. It's almost just like an experiment into experience, I suppose. And yeah, after we've done the exercise, we'll have a talk and see what the effects was on everyone, just to see. I'm very interested to find out. So,
That's a very quick question. Is it like two steps back, right? It's like first noting the awareness, and then first being aware, and then noting the awareness.
yeah, it's like first you note the thing that you're aware of. So I guess there's the step which is like coming in, becoming aware of something like the breath in the nostrils, noting that, and then it's a step back into the awareness. And yeah, I'll guide through the steps as we go. But equally, if you're kind of on your own rhythm and like you don't have to follow my guidance. And yeah, any other questions before we start? Okay, cool. Let's give it a go. Nice. So we can just settle in so that we're kind of like comfortable and upright and feel nice and awake. And yeah, just take a moment to take some nice slow breaths, slow belly breaths. And we just want to get a sense of feeling safe, feeling present in our bodies. Just notice any emotions that are present or any sensations that are present in the body. Allow them to be here. Give ourselves a moment to arrive. And then we'll just take a couple of breaths into the heart space. Almost just like breathing fresh air into that space. And breathing out, doing a sigh if that feels helpful. Just creating a sense of openness and presence as a base for us to start from. And then choosing something to note. So yeah, I'll guide with the breath on the nostrils, but feel free to choose something else if that feels difficult. And finding an aspect of it that feels good to focus on. So I quite like the note, just air, noticing the air. Finding a rhythm of the noting that you can kind of keep a continuous awareness. So for me that's like air, air, air as I breathe in, air, air, air as I breathe out. Might be different for you, different pace, different word, that's fine. And when you feel like you've got a sense of, some sense of clarity, just with one of the notes, taking a moment and seeing if you can just almost like step back into the awareness itself. It might be helpful to note awareness, or it might be more of a felt sense of stepping back. And just seeing what arises, where you end up. It might be quite dramatic, or it might be quite subtle. And you can always come back to the noting of the breathing on the nostrils. Take a step back again whenever. And yeah, we'll just spend 5 minutes here hanging out, and yeah, just experiment with that sense of noting on the breath, or whatever you want to note, and the stepping back into awareness and seeing what arises when that happens and how it changes your experience. Nice. So maybe we can come back and have a conversation about how that was.